Hi, I'm Kimberly Calderbank. Today on Community Cultures, we continue to shine a light on all the amazing work happening in our communities, most times behind the scenes, helping to support our most vulnerable friends and neighbors in need. Joining me is Alia, the Executive Director of the Compassion Society. Alia has been working with the team at the Compassion Society since 2016 and brings with her a wealth of knowledge on community engagement and growth. The Compassion Society responds to the needs of the community by providing food, non-perishable items, and referrals to local resources. Alia, thank you for joining me today. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and the role you hold at the Compassion Society?
Hi, Kimberly. Thank you for having me. Sure, I've been now the ED Executive Director at Compassion Society for just under 5 years, and it's been an interesting journey. I started as the operations manager, and 5 months into the role was promoted to Executive Director to oversee a truly local grassroots volunteer-geared organization uh, with the motto, help where it is needed, when it is needed, for anybody living below the poverty line to come and get support for all kinds of services, food, clothing, household, and programs. So it's been a very interesting journey.
Alia, you hold two very impressive degrees. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit more from your education background as well? It's quite impressive that we have someone working at the Compassion Society with your qualifications.
Yes, I have a master's in public administration, and then I went studying European studies just as EU was emerging as a power in Europe. And then I got into to see how the political systems and the economy worked, and my passion lay into working with the marginalized communities. So I got into poverty alleviation, and then I went on and have a PhD in microfinance, which deals basically with small and micro enterprises and champions of survival for people qualified or defined as making less than $2 a day. And that 6 year study resulted in a book and in two field works in South Asia to compare the political, economic situations and conditions of mostly women. 94% of microfinance clients are women, to see what their struggles and their journeys are in trying to acquire these loans based on social collateral. And then I moved to Canada about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and then I saw a totally different um, paradigm of poverty, maybe not as defined in less developed transitional countries, but also in OECD countries, which has a different aspect of it, like not necessarily just financial, but also isolation. Um, you know, um, and it's been really a learning curve for me.
I love that you mentioned that, Alia, because I wanted to talk a little bit more about that. Often when we talk about poverty within our community and Halton specifically, there are a lot of community members that really don't understand that poverty does exist and that it is on a different level here locally. So can you expand a little bit on what poverty might look like, or what sort of challenges friends and neighbors that are visiting the Compassion Society would be dealing with on a regular basis?
It's really, we see them all and we see everybody. Our clients range from, 41% of our clientele base, I mean, households that we serve, have children under the age of 18. And then we have a lot of seniors, about, I'd say, a good 25-30% that come to Compassion Society for supports that just don't have enough CPP to survive on. And most of the time, even if they do, we have stories to tell you that people come so simply because the isolation bit is so big. They come just for that warm smile, the touch of a volunteer, the ones who know that this person has a high protein diet, for example, or love to have warm mitts or shoes. I think basically because they have such a huge lack of support when it comes to that bit of the warmth that you need as a community or as a person, that I think Compassion Society steps into that role, and a lot of seniors come to us for that. Financial troubles, yes, but I think it's more the warmth aspect and the feeling of community that they come to us. We also see a lot of young single mothers, moms who have had for difficult, precarious life situations, have unfortunately had to struggle, the benefit, for lack of a better word, the kids are priority. So the moms really struggle to make ends meet.
Mhm.
Um, most of the time it is financial poverty, but it is also mismanagement or lack of skills that we see, be it financial literacy, be it being able to write a CV or have the vocational skills to go back on the market, be it also substance abuse or the wrong mentorship or lack of guidance. So I think the Compassion Society, in addition to supplying them with the very, very basic needs of food, clothing, and toiletries, we try to see what more can we do to impact their lives to help them use that resiliency to put their lives back on track. Which is why we started a referral program, and I think we have right now on our roster about 14 programs that will assist them or help them to connect to employment, to legal aid, to mental health, to housing, to all, you name it, we have it. So what I think is the biggest take is, instead of reinventing the wheel,
Mm.
we've tried to gather all that the community already does offer and put it on a platform where people see, okay, I have this support in the community.
Mm.
I'm not alone in the struggle, and I can get help here. If I have a landlord giving me a hard time, I can get free legal representation. If I'm looking for housing, there are means to getting to that. If I am a young person between the ages of 18 and 24, never had the opportunity to sit down and write a resume, there are employment services. If I am a newcomer to Canada and I need ESL because I have to learn the new language of my country, then I will connect them to that. Halti Multicultural Council, that is a partner, like all kinds of supports for newcomers. So it's really, really wide. And to try to put in a nutshell what we do is
Mm.
really difficult, because the motto is help where it is needed, when it is needed.
And I think that's an excellent point, Alia. And actually, the community cultures audience first met or heard about Compassion Society through an interview we did with Next Door Social Space, and they were
Yeah.
your neighbors when they first started out. So community partnerships, it's very clear how important it is. And the Next Door Social Space spoke about how everybody sort of works together. So talk to me a little bit more about the cogs that all work in the wheel to create all of those partnerships throughout the community. You mentioned HMC. Who else are you working with, and how are you all working together in the community?
That's an excellent question, and I'm a big, big advocate, and actually, I very proudly call myself a lobbyist for this. So, more than anybody else, we have the biggest partners who are the food access points. So, be it Burlington Food Bank, Salvation Army, Open Doors from St. Christopher's, Wellington Square Church. All the food programs. And then there's Halton Women's Place that we regularly support and check with. We work with the Burlington Community Legal Services. We work with Halton Housing, with the recreation center from the city that's provides for free passes for sports and swimming and whatnot. We have a public health nurse coming from the Halton region to talk to young moms and nutrition. We also work with the AIDS Network and Halton Support Housing, which actually works with youth for substance abuse. We also work with YMCA Employment Services, a lot of natural remedy clinics in the community that actually offer services for people free of charge when they come and do their outreach into our space. Um, and then so many smaller organizations like Next Door Social Space, for one, because they're a community kitchen. If we have anybody from Warwick, Surrey that's come new to the area, we make sure that, hey, you have knitting classes, you have a community kitchen, there are ESL classes being offered, maybe that's where you connect. And then there's the Center for Skills Development. That is a big, big partner where we connect people because they have an employment bank, and they have services for computer and printing and counseling, employment counselors, but also English as a second language for so many newcomers. We work with the Reach Out Center for Kids, for example. So, I mean, these are just things on the top of my head, but as I said, there are so many partners that we have a roster for. And when somebody walks into our space and we sit down and have that conversation. Unfortunately, since COVID, that has taken a
Mm.
backseat. But we have an intake process where we take people into the safe space, very confidential one-to-one meeting, where we look at, okay, food, clothing, insecurity, yes, but what is it that you're looking for? Do you need to get on the list for housing? Is there something that we can assist you maybe with your special diets needs? Is there a special needs kid that needs supports? All those little things that a person in a very precarious life situation feels very alone and very abandoned. We try to step in and take that bit
Mhm.
a little bit. We know that the struggles are usually bigger than we can help, but where we can step up, we really do our best. And I have a community of about 80 volunteers, amazing people, amazing talent. We have CEOs of billion-dollar companies, to social workers, to nurses, to hairdressers
Mm.
that donate their time and talent. And I am inspired every day going to work with this amazing team.
I think that's one of the most inspiring things for me in being a part of this show is being out in the community and hearing about all the wonderful volunteers and then touching base with the volunteers and hearing just how much the programs mean to them as well, because that giving back piece and being involved in their community is so important. I know you mentioned, and when we first sort of discussed this interview, you were a little disappointed that we can't be in your space because you're so proud of the
Yeah.
space you have and want to show that. So can you kind of walk us through, give us a little bit of a virtual, what the space looks like, how it feels when you arrive, and furthermore, what do the steps look like when people first come to you? What would the process be that they would be walked through?
So what we did pre-COVID looked totally different than what we're doing right now because of the restrictions and, of course, the guidelines from the provincial health guidelines. But I'll try to put the scenario pre-COVID what we were doing. So anybody, it's just under 4,000 square feet of a facility. We serve anything from fresh to non-perishable to frozen food, sometimes ready to go, community kitchens, commercial community kitchens that donate meals. So anything and everything. We have a lot of people that come who are homeless. So, giving them food that they cannot store is useless. So for them, something like a pizza or ready to go meal would be amazing. And we provide all of that. We collect from restaurants and, Little Caesars is a big donor, Red Lobster, Starbucks, all of these. So while early in the morning, we have a clothing section and then we have a fresh food section. We, on a regular busy day, we'd have about maybe 15 to 20 volunteers coming in. They know exactly what they need to do, where they need to pick up. They pre-bag food, they get the tables ready, they stock up the shelves. The clothing volunteers likewise get the clothing racks ready, because we open for the public at 12. Between 12 and 3:30 on a Monday and a Friday, and 12 and 4:40 pre-COVID on a Wednesday, we would serve. On a busy day, we've had clients 119 families a
Wow.
day.
Wow.
On the super slowest day, when there are snowstorm, let's say, and there's nobody out on the streets, we've had the lowest number, 31 families. So between 31 and 119, anything is possible. On the average, we would have about 75 to 80 clients, families a day. So when families walk in, they register at the front table. They're given a chip colored, because we really believe in empowering the people. So they actually go shopping,
Oh.
but they don't pay, but they pay with chips. Like, poker chips, they're colored.
Mhm.
So if you have a family of, let's say, 1 to 3 people, you get a white chip. If you are between 4 to 7 people, you get a red chip. If you are 8 and plus, you get a yellow chip. So you go, and then those chips have a number of points on them. There's a system in place. And then we don't give them the food as this is what you get. They actually pick. So if somebody doesn't like beans, they don't get beans. If somebody likes to have more fish, they get more fish, etc. So they actually shop, and volunteers behind the food table stand. And when they ask for things, they actually pack their bags, they get their food, and then they can get clothing twice a month. So they get a bag of clothing, let's say about the size of a big sack, and they can go and shop for clothing. And when they are on their way out, they just have a blue chip that they hand at the door, which tells them that this person is entitled to have a bag of clothing on that day. So they get their food and their clothing. There are people who come in at 12 and shop around and get their food. It takes them up to 2 hours. Others are in and out in like 10 minutes, depending on what they're looking for.
It sounds very much so like a very accessible, positive experience that you're providing at the Compassion Society for our community. Thank you very much for joining us today. And we do look forward to coming and seeing you out in community when we can get back in and further discussing all the wonderful things that the Compassion Society does for our community. Thank you.